Hello, everyone. For years, the public only saw the polished surface of Bishop Clarence McClendon and his wife Tammera as one of the most high-profile couples in modern ministry, standing hand in hand at conferences, delivering powerful sermons, and seemingly embodying the image of unity, grace, and kingdom purpose. But what the cameras never showed, what the congregation never suspected, and what Tammera herself refused to speak about for so long was the quiet unravelling that was taking place behind the scenes, one marked by emotional distance, ministry pressure, and decisions that would eventually shatter the illusion of a perfect marriage. The truth about Clarence and Tammera's public split is not a tale of sudden betrayal, nor a scandal in the traditional sense, but rather a slow-burning implosion born out of years of suppressed pain, conflicting callings, and a widening gulf between two people trying to hold up a public image while silently crumbling under the weight of private truths. Tammera McClendon, once known for her grace, style, and support of her husband's global ministry, remained silent, even as whispers grew louder within the church circuit, rumours of tension, infidelity, power struggles, and hidden wounds. She stayed silent when members left the ministry confused. She stayed silent when tabloid headlines began speculating about separations. She stayed silent when critics began attacking her for abandoning her role as First Lady. But the silence wasn't weakness, it was survival. Those close to the McClendon family began noticing subtle changes long before the split was made public. Tammera's once frequent appearances alongside Clarence dwindled. She became increasingly absent from ministry tours and media projects. Rumours began circulating that Tammera had grown weary of the constant demands of public ministry and the way her identity had been absorbed by her husband's growing brand. Sources close to Tammera revealed that she had, for years, struggled to reconcile her personal calling with the expectations placed on her as the bishop's wife. While Clarence thrived in the spotlight, building media empires, television ministries, and global partnerships, Tammera began to feel more like a prop than a partner. In private, she yearned for a more balanced life, a desire to raise their children in peace, to find purpose outside of her husband's shadow, and to address emotional wounds that had gone unhealed. But perhaps the deepest wound came from the lack of emotional connection. Tammera reportedly confided in close friends and spiritual mentors that while she and Clarence were united in ministry, they were slowly growing apart in marriage. There were disagreements over finances, over the direction of the ministry, and over how to raise their children amid relentless public scrutiny. But it wasn't until Tammera discovered that trust had been broken, not through an obvious scandal, but through years of emotional neglect and blurred boundaries, that she decided silence was no longer a shield. Though she never made a dramatic public statement, her decision to step back from the ministry and eventually separate from Clarence spoke volumes. Insiders say she gave Clarence multiple chances to reset the relationship, to invest in marriage counselling, to return to the spiritual intimacy they once shared, but those efforts were often delayed or deprioritized due to the overwhelming demands of maintaining the brand. Clarence, for his part, would later acknowledge publicly that the breakdown of his marriage was not the result of a single event, but a culmination of years in which ministry took precedence over marriage, fame overshadowed family, and leadership replaced love. He admitted that while he was winning the world, he was losing the very person who had stood by him when no one knew his name. Tammera, who had opportunities to retaliate, expose, or capitalize on the story, chose instead to retreat, rebuild, and rediscover herself, privately, purposefully, and prayerfully. She began focusing on inner healing, on raising their children with stability, and on finding her own voice, one not defined by a man's title or a ministry's reach. Today, she quietly leads women's healing groups and mentorship circles, offering support to those who have suffered in silence as she once did. Her testimony is not about bitterness or blame. It's about boundaries, restoration, and the courage to walk away from a role that no longer aligned with her spirit. Meanwhile, Clarence McClendon continues to lead, preach, and reflect, but those closest to him admit that the loss of Tammera reshaped him in ways few realize. He has since spoken on the importance of emotional transparency and spiritual accountability, perhaps lessons learned too late. A painful reminder that behind the sermons and song, the platforms and prestige are human beings, fragile, flawed, and in desperate need of grace. The real story behind Clarence and Tammera McClendon's public split isn't just about what went wrong. It's about the high cost of silence, the quiet power of healing, and the choice to prioritize peace over pretense. Tammera stayed silent for years, not because she had nothing to say, but because she was waiting for the right time to speak through her strength, not her suffering. And now, the story that once echoed through whispered rumors is finally being understood. Not as a scandal, but as a testimony of a woman who walked away not to destroy, but to live, love, and lead on her own terms. Thanks for watching.